Hello, you gorgeous soul. Welcome to my channel. I am going to be talking about my ayahuasca journey that I went on 4 weeks ago. You know, it's been an integration period over the past 4 weeks, and I've been really intentional with conversations that I have, the people that I surround myself with, the workload that I choose to take on for this integration period to be integrated properly, right? And I think I'll do a separate video on the preparation and the integration of the ceremony, and I'll focus this video more on the actual ceremony and the journey itself. You know, a lot of people call it the trip. I personally, I don't like that term. I don't know why. I feel that it's a journey. And for me, it was such a sacred ceremony. And, you know, I really put all of my energy, my intentions into this journey. And it was most likely why it was so transformational for me. For those of you that don't know, ayahuasca it's a plant medicine it's been used for thousands of years in a way of connecting deeply to your roots and going in and really going into your subconscious mind. Can go through different dimensions and different realms, which I did all of that. But it's a really deep inner healing. I don't think ayahuasca is for everyone. I really, truly don't. And I personally believe that there should be some sort of level of inner work to be done before embarking on this journey. Or maybe you get the call and allow that call to be your permission slip to start doing some inner healing, some inner work first. I know for me, the call, I got a calling to do ayahuasca. And it started just under 12 months ago. The calling started. And eventually what happens is like it'll be something that someone says. The word ayahuasca will show up into your life, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, what's that? A bit of a curiosity piece comes through, and then nothing else is really done about it. And then, you know, all of a sudden it'll start getting stronger and stronger. And it's like your intuition when you don't listen to your highest self. It's like, you know, things will happen continuously. But with the calling of Mama Aya it'll get stronger and stronger and stronger. And you'll start to notice that you immerse yourself in community of people that talk about it, or maybe a podcast will randomly pop up, or you'll see something on a movie or on TV, or it'll be a book that's recommended to you. And, you know, I know for me, it was like I was listening to this ikoros, which is what the shamans sing when you're in a journey. And, you know, I was listening to these songs that had ayahuasca in it, and I unintentionally, like, not taking that in. I didn't really know, right? But yeah, so the calling can look different for everyone. But let's talk about what ayahuasca is. So ayahuasca is a plant medicine that's been used for thousands of years to do deep inner healing, right? And it's consisted of two plants. One is a vine. They call it the vine of the soul or the vine of the dead. And like its name, you can have those experiences, which I will get into. I had a death experience. And then there's the leaves, the Petruna leaves, I think they're called. I'm not going to go into the science about it. I don't know the science a lot about it. I'm just on what I researched on YouTube and books. And it became a big obsession for me, which I'll talk about in the in another video about um, how to prepare for ayahuasca. But just a bit of a debrief. You follow a dieta, so it's like a specific diet that you follow. And the reason that you follow this is a few different reasons. So number one is to cleanse your body and your mind of what's potentially going to happen, what can come up for you. But another reason is to give some sort of a sacrifice, right? So it's like you take away some pleasurable things. For example, the week leading up to, they say not to engage in sexual activity with anyone else or yourself, right? And it just cleanses your body and allows you to go into the medicine with an open heart, an open mind, and really full, clean energy, right? But it's like sacrificing part of your everyday life to allow yourself to surrender fully to the medicine, right? And the number two things I'm going to say for me that were my mantras months leading up into it was to surrender and to come back to my heart. And those two mantras, they got me and they saved me and they got me into a very deep, deep journey that I went on, which I will go into in a moment. So creating a space in your mind and your heart and in your soul is such an important piece when going in and embarking on any plant medicine journey. I wouldn't even call myself a psychonaut yet. I'm in the process now of experimentation. However, going into anything, you should be going in with an intention anyway, right? Like I'm quite a spiritual person. I teach spirituality. I teach this with my coaching clients. Anything set with intention. It's like a meditation ritual. Just going into sitting into a meditation. Well, yeah, you may meditate, calm the mind, but you're not really going to go on a journey, right? So the more intention that you can put into something, the more you're going to get out of it. In saying that, though, Mama Aya will not show you what you want to know. Mama Aya will show you what you need to know, right? So you set your intentions, but then you let them go. You let go of the expectation and let go of the control. Let go of control, trying to control the outcome. Super, super important when embarking on an ayahuasca journey, especially. So I might just get into I'm in a country where it's not legalized here, right? So for me to find someone who honorably hosts these kind of ceremonies was a bit of a journey. The very first place that I went with, I was scammed $1,800. But you know what? It was a lesson to listen to my intuition. It was like I took it as this sign straight away. I just went, oh, okay, that burns. Single mom, 3 kids. I was like, seriously? Like I've been saving for this? But anyway, I just let it go. I was like, it is what it is. What is this teaching me? It's teaching me to go with my intuition because my intuition originally told me to go with this other place, but I went with that place because it was cheaper. It was cheaper and it was closer as well. Yeah, but my initial intuition was like, no, there was something inside of my stomach that just went, don't do that. Anyway, so I found this really beautiful shaman who travels around and hosts these retreats, right? And I'm not obviously going to say who or where I went, but it was a very big journey. I also want to put in a disclaimer. Let's just go back 9 minutes, shall we? Want to pop in a disclaimer and say that I am not saying that you should do ayahuasca. I am expressing this for harm reduction purposes and for my own personal journey that I went on, my own deep inner healing journey. I'm not saying that you should do it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. So disclaimer, go back. All right, so going back to where we were. So it was a bit of a journey to get there. I I had about a 15-hour drive, which I did by myself. And I mean, I had the option to fly, but I went into it with a pure heart and a pure mind. And I was like, how am I really going to do this? Like, let's just drive. Let's just be by myself for 2 days, really integrate what's about to happen. And it was such a journey. And I'll go over that in another video. But anyway, so I get to this beautiful retreat, and this place is like magic. It's like magic. The spirits of the animals and the energy there was just beautiful. It was such a beautiful space. And getting there, we had to like set up our beds and stuff in the hall, and set up like our put our crystals on the altar and set up anything that we wanted in the room with us. So like pens, our vomit bucket, all of these little things that we had, like any, I took like specific crystals and stuff that I wanted to be with me to make me feel safe while I was in that process. And then we went and had an integration, a bit of a meeting, had a meeting about how it was going to turn out. We got these beautiful journals, hero's journey journals. They were incredible. Like, and explains about the hero's journey, right? So the calling, you get a call to go on this adventure, and whether you go on it or not is another thing, right? But you meet a mentor, and then someone will take you through the process, and then you go into the pits and the darkness of despair, and then you come out the other side, and it will be light, intention, beautiful growth, expansion. And yeah, so we were like met everyone, and we ran through all of like the process and what was about to happen, and it all kind of happened so quickly. And then next minute, the first cup was getting served, first cup of ayahuasca. And ayahuasca, it's brewed into a tea. I didn't say that earlier. It's brewed into a tea, and it has DMT in it, and it activates with your brain, and your brain, it prolongs the course of the DMT within your body, because our brains actually produce DMT, right? So our pineal glands produce DMT when you do breath work, especially holotropic breath work. But when you do breath work, you release DMT. I think there's other parts in your body that have DMT as well, like your liver and your kidneys, but it's not really too connected with your brain. But what happens is there's a part in your brain called the DMN that shuts down. It kind of works like an ego, right? So it shuts anything down that comes in. So us human beings, we're not meant to live in a life in alignment of super consciousness, expanded consciousness all the time, because we wouldn't get anything done. And we're here on earth to live a 3D experience, to live in a human body. Like, that's what we're supposed to do, right? So we release DMT in our brains. If you ever had that feeling when you've done breath work and you just got like really lightheaded, and you might see some like visuals, well, that's DMT being released within your brain. But the DMN shuts that down, so it only lasts maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds, minute max. But with the plant, with the leaves of the plant, it prolongs that within your body. So you can be in a journey for up to 8 hours. Our journeys were roughly about 5 or 6. There was one of the guys who actually times all his journeys, and he said that we were in there for about 5 hours. But I can tell you now, on the second day, I was still journeying for at least 7 hours. It's incredible. It was incredible. Anyway, so we go up, and we're in line, and we go to take our first cup, and I'm like nervous as I've never done this before, and my heart's beating 100 miles out of my chest, and I just had my hand on my heart and my hand on my womb space, and I was just like rocking myself backwards and forth and really dropping into my body, saying my mantras, which was surrender, come back to your heart, the medicine is working, which is something that I would say throughout the ceremony, and trust the process, which was also a card that I pulled earlier that day. So I took my first cup, and I really used that moment to be sacred with the medicine. Like, I knelt down, and I held the cup of Mama Aya, and I connected to my heart space, and I whispered my intention into the cup. And then, the shaman said, it's even really, really important that you don't like squint your eyes or make a face after having the medicine, because it's like a sign of disrespect. So it's really just trying to take that in. And look, I watched so many videos and read so many things about the medicine being like really gross. It really wasn't. I didn't think so. Like it just tasted really earthy. I mean, my first cup, I kind of just sculled it, went straight down my throat, so I didn't really taste it. And then I took, they had some fresh fruit there, so I just took a strawberry, and then walked back gently and went and sat back down on my bed. And for me personally, I have a very high tolerance, but I have a very strong relationship with my body. I feel things within my body almost instantly. It's like even when I was pregnant, I've had 3 kids, right? I knew straight away with my second and third, from the moment of conception, I was like, I'm going to be pregnant. Like it was just a feeling within my body, and it's a deep intuitive knowing, right? So anyway, this medicine, like I could feel it straight away, pretty much straight away. Like I'd sat down and I was like moving and just gently swaying. Some people would lay straight down, but me personally, I'd read, and I would recommend, if it's something that you're going to do, to allow the medicine to work through your body, allow it to work through you. So sit up, like sit up as long as you can, and just allow it to be worked through your body, and just really be one with the medicine. Like just really, bring Mama Aya, bring her in, invite her in with love and gratitude. Yeah. So anyway, I started to get like these kind of like visuals, but I kept thinking to myself, and I had my eye mask on because they recommended that you have your eye mask on. I kept saying to myself, I was like, is this the medicine, or is this just me? Because when I go in through meditations, I go deep. Like I see fractals and geometric shapes normally anyway, right? So I was like, is that me? And anyway, they called up the next cup. So I was called. I went, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to have the next cup. And I went up and sacredly took my second cup, and then went back down onto my bed. And within minutes, my journey began. Now, my journey began. So on night one, it began with like this lens that came over me, kind of like this fly screen, and I was like, "Ooh, okay." And then I saw like these 3D geometric tubes that I would then get engulfed in, and I'd like flicker my eye mask up, and I'd be like, "Oh no, everything's still normal." Whoa! And I'd shut my mask, like super excited and like, "Okay, here we go." But then within like seconds, I was like taken away, and I was taken away into this completely other world, right? The very first thing that I saw was these patterns in geometric shapes, like these beautiful patterns. Like, oh, what's his name? He does the Alex, Alec. I'll pop a photo just in here so you can see a name in here. But yeah, so I saw like all of these geometric shapes and patterns, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And I was like engulfed in it and then taken away. But then all of a sudden, like I noticed that my heart started beating really fast, and I had to like really intentionally remember to breathe. So I'd be like, oh, okay, breathe. Yeah, breathe. And it was like my body was just floating. And then I saw her. I saw Mama Aya, and they call her Mama Aya because she's like a grandmother. She's really loving and inviting. She can be the opposite as well if you fight it, right? If you don't surrender. But I saw her face, and she like pulled out these arms and was like, welcome, my child. And then I was gone, and I went into this other dimension. Now, the only way that I can really explain this is if you close down your eyes, and just imagine that you're in the middle of a forest where it's really loud. You can hear lots of birds and rattling and walking and fire. and you've got a torch, you turn the torch on and you can feel and see all of like the bugs around you. And then imagine that there's a beach there as well, and the crashing of the waves and the seagulls and all of these things happening at once. Just imagine that for a moment. And imagine that you can see it and that you can feel it and that you can smell it and that you can taste it and you can touch it. And then imagine that you are it. Hundreds of thousands of things happening all at once. Now you can open your eyes. And imagine that times 10 or times 100. That was what it was like for me. So I was greeted by all of these intergalactic beings, these interdimensional beings. It's like they swarmed towards me, and they were speaking a language that my humanness could not understand, but yet a language that I could understand, right? And all the message that I got was, wow, look at this one. Whoa, this one, let's come to this one. And it's like all of the spirits and all of the intergalactic beings and all of the light codes and the light workers and the archangels and the angels and everything that was there just came to me. And at one point I was getting operated on within my entire being. And at one point it really scared me and I was like, oh my gosh. But then I just went, no, the medicine is working. Just surrender. And then it would just like dissipate. And then I would get encoded with these like numbers. Everything was numbers being encoded in me. Like I was getting a complete cellular upgrade. And it felt so loving. The most love that I've ever experienced in my entire life. Within this journey, I experienced so many different things that to even go back and think about it, it's like, yeah, I remember that, and that. But there was so much more that happened. However, I really was able to get the meanings out of these things. So at one point so if I go back to the operations that were being had on me and my brain. So I was getting these brain operations as well. It was like they were removing stuckness and they were injecting and inserting a cellular upgrade. Like every cell in my entire body was filling up with love. And then I started to get like really, really cold. Like I was so cold. I just remember grabbing my blankets and then the yawns start. So ayahuasca brings out purging within you, right? So a lot of people will vomit, and the vomit's not like, it's not like regular vomit. It's like spit. It's like purging energy. It's not even about the process of it happening. It's not the thing that comes out. It's the process of it happening, right? So it's like removing that energy, drawing it up and getting it out of your body. Well, for me, I was having yawns. So my yawns were so big. It was like I was this lion giving birth to this force creation. Like I was purging all of the energy that I had like from deep within my soul and purging it out. I had like some nausea and sickness. And I felt like it was just like I'd go into like these dark moments. Like there would be like this dark moment, right? But then all of a sudden I would surrender. I just come back to my heart, surrender, the medicine is working. And then I would go straight back into love and light and Mama Aya just holding me and the feeling. And it's like I was feeling love. I was love. I was one with everything. Everything was just so beautiful and so magical. I was like, it felt like this went on forever. It was really, really incredible. The journey was actually called the Whispering Forest, which makes so much sense, right? Like with what I had experienced in that process. I remember at one point I got up and I went to the toilet just to do a wee, right? And I got up off the toilet and I looked at myself in the mirror, and it's like I looked at myself in the mirror for the first time. I'm so beautiful. And it's like the love that I felt for myself was like seeing myself for the very first time in the eyes of an admirer, times 1,000. It's like, that's me. Wow. You're so beautiful. You know, and I just remember like throughout the rest of the experience, the rest of the journey, it was just, I was smiling and the happiness and love, and you know, at one point I felt like, at one point my ego was like, why are you having such a really good experience and everyone around you is crying and purging and dying? And then I just went, go away, thought. And I just surrendered back into it. And it's like, I was just this ultimate state of surrender. So it was no wonder why my experience was so amazing. Yeah, it was so incredible. Like I even had like this, sexual, sensual energy with like this light beam woman. And it's like I was making love with her and encapsulating my entire being with love and with light and with beauty and with life force energy. It was, yeah, I'm just getting like little flashbacks now. It was just so magical, so magical. Ah, dear. Incredible. I'm going to put a little video of me in the medicine that you can watch now, and then I will come back. Wow. Wow. I don't even know where to begin. I feel like I met thousands of intergalactic beings, archangels. I saw thousands of codes, like they were geometric shapes, and everything inside of them were codes. It was all language, and it was engulfed, encapsulated through every cell of my entire body, spirit, mind. At one point, I was getting operated on by numerous different galactic beings, and I could hear and see and feel their codes poking and pulling at me. And I just surrendered. And the whole experience was incredible. Like there were a few times I had really nausea. And I was like, I need to purge something. And I kept purging by yawning. It was like I was giving birth like a lion.
giving birth to something out of my mouth continuously over and over. And I felt like this inner darkness that needed to come out. But it's like, the more I thought about it, I was like, let it out, let it out, let it out. But then I just surrender and it would just dissipate. Yeah, at some point, I really tried to like control, as like control what I was seeing, but then I'd stop and I'd like let it go. And I just saw the most beautiful things. Oh my gosh. I could feel the energy of people around me purging and crying and in so much pain. And I just drew my energy in. And I saw it as beauty in pain and purge. And all of that is deep inner nourishing healing. And coming back to my heart space gave me so much peace and love through every moment of it. I'm gonna put my phone down because it's like hurting my arm. I'm still quite high off medicine. Not high. Yes, high. At one point, a shaman came to me and she just looked at me and welcomed me. And we just nodded. And it's like she welcomed me into a part of the healing space, like shamanism, medicine woman. And then she like tapped on my chest and cracked open this part of my heart, which just like flew up through the sky like this white golden light. And like through the heavens, it was like filled with like love and sensuality and joy and abundance and prosperity. I then closed down my eyes and I started like energetically making love to this like white being. And I felt this sexual energy, but it wasn't like from my genitals. It was like from every cell in my body. I was moving as one gorgeous sensual energy. I kept getting this message that my heart is pure, that I was so ready for this, that at some points I was even questioning why I was having such a beautiful experience while everyone around me was having such a challenging time. But then I let that dissipate, because there were some times that I went through some challenges as well. But I didn't fight them. I just surrendered. Like, surrender, come back to your heart. Surrender, come back to your heart. The medicine is working. The medicine is working. Everything is how it should be. I just kept playing those mantras over and over and over again throughout the whole experience. I saw so much. I felt so much. My soul felt home. There was at one point earlier on that I felt like, yes, I'm familiar, I've been here, I've seen this, I've envisioned it, this is my reality. I don't know whether that's from a dream or whether that's just my soul's purpose from being in the 5D realm. Like, I felt everything. It was incredible. I'd skip dimensions. Like, I'd go to the 5D dimension, to the 8th D, a little glimmer of the 7th, which was darkness, right? And then I'd get out of there. And then I'd jump down to 1, which is like 1, just me, unity. And then I'd jump up. I saw beauty in everyone's pain and darkness. Like, there was this beauty in pain. People in their authenticity, their rawness, their humanness. When I started to come back, I could feel myself really heavy and coming back into the 3D realm, like 3D dimension, right? And I just remember going, no, I don't want to go back. I want to stay here. And I got this message that you belong in the 3D world for now. You've got a journey, you've got a mission, you've got a reason to be there. And then I just went, oh, okay, I'll go back. And like the next, I don't know, maybe hour was just like slowly just dissipate back into nothing. Would see nothing. Felt so much. The visuals were insane. Like, I not only saw them, but felt them. I like at one point towards the beginning, I was like a bee. And I saw Mama Aya's face. She welcomed me. When I finally let go at the beginning, I saw her face in like this geometric jungle, and her face was right in the center. And I just looked at her, and then she like put out these arms and just pulled me in, and I just like melted and went straight into my experience. Holy wow. I feel so light, pure. I think I'm going to leave it there for now. I'll try and get some sleep. We jump into the 8th dimension and see what else she shows me. We have another ceremony in a few hours, so we get a few hours sleep, and we're having another ceremony early in the morning. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with my next intention. Peace out. Yeah. So, and then we went to bed. I did a lot of journaling before bed, and when I went to bed, I literally jumped straight into the 8th dimension and
Mama Aya, she took me straight back. So I like had like all of these golden nuggets that were dropped in through my dreams all night. It was beautiful. In the morning I got up and I like wrote down all of these nuggets, you know. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I got from the first ceremony was that this love that I have and that was in this ceremony is within me, and I can now give to others as well, right? The love that I've always been seeking as a child, as a teenager, as an adult, I've been seeking externally is already within me. And now that I've been able to feel that, it stayed with me. I've embodied that. Yeah, that was probably one of my biggest takeaways. And another one is within suffering, so within the other people's suffering, is beauty, right? There's so much beauty in suffering because it's just the opposite to light and happiness and love and joy. The dark is not just dark, it's not evil. Like, I know that there's evil forces out there, right? But even in their destruction, after the destruction comes rebirth, creation. My second ceremony goes through that nice and deeply, which I'll get into in a moment. But, you know, for me, I really took that as going into the darkness. Do not go into the darkness trying to shine the light from a place of, I want you to be light. I want you to go away. Go into the darkness and just surrender to it. What's there? What's in that darkness? You sit there for long enough with love. Eventually it's going to transmute. It'll transmute into love and into life and into joy, light. And I'll go into this really deeply with my second ceremony. So the next morning we had our ceremony back to back. So the evening ceremony, and then we went to bed. We got up in the morning. We had like a little share circle, nothing too much, and then we reclused back into our own space because something that the shaman had said, which is really important, is to, you know, we as human beings, we live a lot of our lives trying to step out and help other people, right? Which is beautiful. But sometimes that takes away from us and we forget about ourselves. And when you're in a journey, especially with plant medicine, it's really important to come back to yourself and be in the medicine for you. So there was like no talking that was allowed. And throughout that, after we had our little share circle, the first cup was served after we did our little ceremony of like holding hands and prayer and really grounding and dropping into the sacred space. The first cup was called and I had a bigger cup this time and I was really excited. I was like, yes, go back into the journey. Let's go back into love and into light. And so I sat down, kneeled down, and I really took, I really tasted the medicine this time. I was like, I really want to taste it. And it's just tastes earthy. It's kind of like dirt and water, a little bit bitter. It doesn't taste bad. And so I took my cup and I sipped on the medicine and I went back and I sat back down and again, I felt the medicine pretty much straight away. It started with like visuals. So again, the 3D geometric shapes, I became one with that. And then the like geometric kaleidoscope colors and stuff were happening, but they weren't as vivid as the first night, right? So I noticed that I had like this judgment piece that came up for me. My ego was like, oh, is that it? Is that all? This is not that good. And then I really tried to ignore it and just surrender. And then I went into like this state of the polar opposite from last night. from the night's journey, right? So I went into the polar opposite. I could hear people crying around me, and I could hear vomiting, and I could hear purging. And again, I went through like a yawning phase. I went through the coldness and the feeling in my tummy, and I was like, oh, this feels really icky. And it's like I was holding on to something and not surrendering. Yeah, I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to. It was like, oh, that's a bit weird. It was like the feeling of needing to vomit had come up for me, and I was like, but it just went away, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And now looking back at that, I think that was its way, that if I had sat up and tried to, then maybe I would have purged whatever that was out of me. But instead, I chose not to, and I just continued to lay down because I'd felt the urge to lay down earlier. I went in the pits of sorrow and despair and trauma, and my entire body filled up with sorrow, trauma, and sadness. Everyone around me, I felt their sadness and their trauma. Everyone in the whole world, every being, every fly that was killed, I felt its trauma, its sadness throughout my whole entire body. The second cup was called, and I laid there, and I was like, I can't move. I was like, I can't move. I need another cup. I don't want to be in this. It's like I had this, I don't want to be in this moment, which was me not surrendering. Now that I look back at that, right? This went on for what felt like forever. And eventually I got up because I needed to do a wee. So I got up and stumbled across to the toilet, the bathroom. Someone had to kind of like help me. I sat down, finished my business. I got up, I looked at myself in the mirror, and then it really began. I began releasing the trauma by crying. I saw so much sadness within my entire soul. Like this facade that I had, mask that I had put on for years and years and years, had just been stripped away and taken off me. And all of the sadness that I felt through my childhood, through my teenage years, my adult years, it all just surfaced and came up, and just, I cried and I cried and I cried. And then I walked out of that bathroom and I walked into the shaman who was right there. She had her hands out for me. She didn't say anything. I just walked straight to her. And I like melted into her arms and cried and cried and howled and let out all of that sadness and sorrow and trauma out of my body, and just cried. Couldn't stop. And eventually, what felt like forever, she guided me back to my bed and laid down. I laid down, and she just laid next to me, stroking my hair and holding my hand. And I started to grow old. And I was in so much pain and so much sorrow and sadness. And then I knew it. I was dying. I physically felt my body dying. I felt it grow old, and bits of my life and past lives flashed through my eyes. And I was at this point of so much sadness and at the pit of despair that there was nothing that I could do. I just went, okay, I'm going to die. I surrender to dying. And I grew to be this old native woman, and I died. And it was so sad. And eventually the shaman got up and walked away after I died, and my spirit had left my body. And then I felt this overwhelming sense of like love and beauty
but something still wasn't quite right. But I experienced all of like this love, and I kept like dying and then rebirthing and dying and rebirthing in like different forms, but nothing that my human language can explain. It's like, it's just a knowing. It's like I was transmuting into other energies and then dying in their form, and then rebirthing was so beautiful. And eventually the shaman called up for the third cup, so I hadn't had a second, so I got up and my sadness in line waiting for my cup of, I whispered my intention in it again, and I went and sat back down, and then it completely shifted. My whole journey completely shifted. It was love and joy and light and happiness. But the interesting thing about my two journeys was the nighttime journey was like so dimensional, realm shifting and intergalactic beings, and like foresty and real like geometric and visuals, and so like full on. Whereas my second journey, the daytime journey, I was in this 3D world. Like I was like stuck in this 3D world, in the pit of sorrow and sadness. But then after I'd had the second cup, things got really beautiful and so interesting, right? So I ended up having this like sensual moment with myself after I had the medicine. I went and sat down, and I stayed sitting up for a while, and I'm like dancing, moving my body to the music, and then I ended up having like soul sex with this with the guy that I had the twin flame experience with the day before, right? And it was beautiful. It was not genital, like it wasn't like that, but it was so pleasurable in an energetic way. It was beautiful. And then I went and sat by the altar, and then all of a sudden my belly started growing, and I was pregnant, and I remember just pushing, like I was like, oh, like having these contractions, like I physically felt my contractions happening, like they were contractions. I've had 3 kids. And it was interesting because the shaman come over and she like placed her hands on my belly, and yeah, just allowed me to give birth to this creation, which was like this blue light force energy. And it was like this creation, and it turned into this gorgeous butterfly, and yeah, it was so magical and so beautiful, and I take that as after that death and that sorrow comes the rebirth of life, the rebirth of you, the rebirth of one, the rebirth of the universe. With darkness, you need darkness to get the light. You need the polarity of both. Yeah, it was such an incredible experience. I'm gonna drop another video of me in the medicine that's gonna give you a bit of an insight as to in depth about the journey on day 2.
Wow, that was intense. The majority of today's ceremony, I was in the 3D world, in the 3D dimension. I was a human experiencing grief, pain, sorrow, suffering tremendously. I kept like looping
like looping grief and pain and suffering and memories that like weren't my memories. I experienced all of this sorrow. It went on for what felt like forever. And then when I got up to go to the toilet and I looked at myself in the mirror, I just soul gazed into my eyes and just broke. I saw inside of my soul like all of this pain and suffering, and I just let it go. Just let it all out, let it go. And when I let it go, it wouldn't stop. And after that, I was dying. I physically saw and felt my body dying, completely shutting down, and the shaman came and sat with me and nursed me to my death. And then after the death, I was reborn, and then the rest of the experience was like this duality of polarity, of darkness and light and integration, and bringing forth the light into the dark. Let the dark be without trying to force the light into it. Let the dark just be. Yeah, it was such a profound experience. And then I was like, having soul sexuality with one of the other participants, one of the other travelers, and it was incredible. It was like really beautiful. We had this like soul connection and made love, and then I felt pregnant, and I had this birthing. It was not a baby, it was a birthing something inside of me, like a creation. It was birthing this creation. And then again, the shaman came up to me and she put her hands on my belly and allowed me to give birth. And I gave birth. I fucking gave birth. Shit. I gave birth to this like blue crystal light and like white light, and it turned into like this butterfly of like life after death, and is more life, and then there's death, and more life and death, and it's like this cycle. I'm just so grateful for life. I'm so grateful for life. Peace out. So as you can see, it was quite intense. It's like the polar opposite to the nighttime. So yeah, the shaman had said that there's different beings and there's different beings around of a nighttime and a daytime and a morning time. So it was really beautiful to be able to finish my journey, and it was really beautiful how Mama Aya, the beautiful Mama Aya, guided me through that journey ever so gently, and then took me into the darkness and the sadness and the sorrow and the despair, and then which again then brought me back into the beautiful space. And you know, we had this beautiful integration circle after it, which would have been my favorite part, because we really got to connect with everyone and, you know, sit and cuddle and just create family create this beautiful connection with people, like how it's supposed to be. And yeah, it was so incredible listening to other people's stories. You know, some other people had nothing like that. Other people had the dark first because they wouldn't surrender. And you know, there was this other girl who like physically thought she was going to die. She was like, I need to go to hospital, I'm going to die. And it was because she wouldn't surrender, right? So the number one thing is to surrender to the medicine, surrender in life. You know, something that it's taught me now, it's surrendering and letting go of that control. There's so much more to life than being fixated on something, being in control of something. You know, the integration circle at the end was a lot of vibrational frequency raising, filling up the room and the earth and the globe and the universe with love, and lots of touch and connection, and so much for my nervous system to handle, especially after the first ceremony, because like I could feel my heart beating 100 miles an hour. The energy is like I could see the green pulsating out of my heart chakra into the quantum field. It was like, whoa, this is intense. And yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot to take in. But yeah, I will do another video on integration and how important integration is, and what integration really looked like for me as well. I think it's really important, especially if you're considering doing ayahuasca. And I do leave you with this as well. If you are considering doing Aya, then I highly recommend that you do your research, especially if you're in a country where it's not legalized, like me. And I would recommend going to someone who is a referral of someone. So someone who's went and sat in ceremony with that shaman rather than a friend of a friend. And I know that can sometimes be challenging, but yeah, it's super important. Super important. I really feel that this journey is a really sacred journey. You know, if you're being called to, if you're getting the calling, ask yourself why you want to do it, and start a level of mindfulness before. Meditate, do breath work, start journaling, start getting to know who you are to your core. Reach out to mentors like me. If you're a female, I coach women. You know, get curious. Get curious with you. Set intentions and then let them go. And really be present. Really be present. And also I would recommend taking the integration really seriously. There was a few people that went pretty much straight back to work, and I really saw how they struggled. You know, for myself personally, I took a week, maybe another week and a half off work, and I spent so much time in nature, spent so much time journaling and just sitting and just being, meditating and integrating everything that happened, bringing it into my life. How do I bring that into my life? If you loved this video, please hit the subscribe button and like this video. Drop a comment if it inspired you. Share it with your friends. I'm so new to YouTube. I have a podcast channel called Mind Body Confidence Podcast. I've only uploaded a few episodes from my podcast channel, which is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I go in about my actual journey, my healing journey and my story, which is quite in depth, which if you're interested, then yeah, go and subscribe to that as well. And yeah, I'm sending you so much love and light, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah.